If you guys could all grab your seat, good morning. Welcome to the Life Church. It is wonderful to see all of you guys' faces this morning. Just sit tight and we're going to go through some announcements before we have the message. All right, so remember, CDC guidelines. Remember that we're continuing to observe these CDC guidelines for social distancing. Please keep in mind that when greeting others in church, some may be comfortable with handshakes, others will not, so please just keep that in mind as we go about this next hour. Children's Church is open today, 1st through 4th grade only. Children will be provided hand sanitizer and will practice social distancing in the classroom by separating chairs and having some precautionary rules regarding touching, hugging, or sharing items. Parents, please do not bring your children if they have a fever or don't feel well. When parents pick up the children after service, we ask that they also exercise social distancing at the doorways. And hopefully we're going to have the nursery, the preschool classrooms open up soon. That all depends on the COVID conditions in the community. Prayer groups, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. or Wednesdays at 6 a.m. in the prayer room. All are welcome to join. And as you leave today, there's going to be ushers in the basket. We'll have a basket by the back door, and you can drop your tithes and offerings into that. And I just want to remind you guys all again that next Sunday, July 5th, there will be no church. So I encourage you all just to enjoy your 4th of July weekend, spend time with your family. Now, it's my absolute privilege to announce that I'm not preaching today. My amazing wife is going to be bringing the word today. Yeah, exactly. So please welcome my wife, Chelsea Elizabeth Higgs.
Hi, guys. How's it going? Good morning. I'm so glad we're all here together today. I just want to say, first of all, I wish this podium was smaller because I am not as tall as Pastor Mike, so I'm going to be moving around as much as possible so you can actually see me. Second of all, I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity. I love whenever I get to come up here and share with you guys. It's just an absolute honor for me. So, jumping right in, this is not the message I planned on preaching today. I had a whole message ready to go. It was all polished, and then on Thursday night, well, first of all, Levi and I both are going to preach, and I think on, Tuesday, he came home and he was like, hey, I really think it's just supposed to be you. And my first reaction was like, oh, you don't want to write a sermon. You just don't, that's fine, you just don't want to do the work. And he's like, no, really, pray about it, we'll see. And I prayed about it, and I was like, I think he's right, it's supposed to be me. And then on Thursday evening, I was trying to go to sleep, and it was 11 o'clock, and this message just came to me. And at first I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm preaching in 3 days. My sermon is done. I'm not starting over. No. And you know when God's trying to speak to you and you're being really stubborn and he doesn't let that fly? So literally I could not go to sleep until finally I was like, okay, if this is what you want me to do, let me go to sleep right now. And when I wake up tomorrow, I will work on this sermon. And boom, fell asleep. So this is my sermon today. And I also just want to say, whenever I get the opportunity to preach, I always come at it with I'm just going to talk about myself, my own experience, what God is doing in me. And then at some point, it always gets changed into something that's no, this is bigger. This is about our church body. This is about the global church body. And so I just want to remind everyone that my heart here is just, I am a daughter of this house. I love this church. I love the church. And I just really want us to be as great as we possibly can be. So that's just where I'm coming from today. So let's just jump right in. Last week, I was not here. And it was rough. This whole week has just been something else. So last Friday, I had gotten home from work. Levi and I were getting ready to come to Immersion, our worship night that we had here. And we were just hanging out. It was a totally normal night. And then I started feeling this weird pain in my lower abdomen. And I was just kind of like, uh-oh, that's a problem. I'm going to take some Advil, lay on the couch. So 10 minutes goes by. It had gone from uh-oh to I can't move. Like, my body was just in such severe, piercing pain. I literally could not move off the position I had laid down in. If I tried to get up and reposition myself, I would literally have to like cry out because it hurt so bad. And so I'm laying there, I'm texting Corolla, I'm texting other people, like, please pray, I want to be there, I want to go. And it did not go away. And so I ended up staying in that position on the couch for about 3 hours. And then I managed to make it into the bathtub somehow. I took a bath. That was super helpful. And then getting out of the bath, going back to my bedroom, I almost passed out 5 times. And Levi wasn't there. Levi was here at Immersion night. So that was just a scary experience. And I started having something called referred pain in my shoulder. If you don't know what that is, which I didn't know what it was, when one of your internal organs is in distress, it literally sends the pain to another part of your body, because you don't have as many nerve endings on the inside. So I'm laying there already in pain, and then my shoulder starts spasming, and I cannot get comfortable, cannot lay down no matter what I do. So thanks, body. I knew, but thanks for that extra pain. That was super helpful. So I somehow went to sleep that night, got up the next morning, was still in pain. It eventually faded, and the next few days I was really just physically exhausted. And for those of you who are concerned, I did go to the doctor. We got it figured out. Keeping an eye on it. I'm fine. So yeah, that just last weekend was super fun. And then that just continued all this week, off and on. So what we're talking about today is pain. Doesn't that sound like a super fun message? It's going to be really lighthearted. So pain has a purpose. Pain tells us that somewhere in our body, something is wrong. Something is not functioning the way it's supposed to be functioning. And, God could have built our bodies to not feel pain, which sounds great at first, but if you actually think about it, that would be a disaster. There are people who have this condition called congenital insensitivity to pain, and they can feel the difference between hot and cold, sharp and dull, but if they burn their tongue drinking coffee, they don't feel it. If they sprain an ankle, they'll keep walking on it because they don't feel it. And for some things like stubbing your toe or slamming your finger in a car door, that sounds great. But these people actually have shorter lifespans a lot of the time because they can't feel pain. They can't tell when they're injured. They can't get injuries taken care of. They don't know where they're supposed to be protecting on their bodies. So God was really smart when he designed us to feel pain, to know when something is wrong. So pain is terrible, but it's also really helpful. It, like I said, shows us where something has gone wrong. And I just think we culturally are really uncomfortable with discomfort. We don't like being in pain. We want to fix it as quickly as possible. We want to just be done with it. We pride ourselves on being able to just push through, to just keep trucking through the pain. We're Americans, rub some dirt on it, get up, get back on that horse, keep marching on. That's very much a prideful thing. I shouldn't, but I still tell the story of me breaking my elbow with so much pride. I broke my elbow, didn't go to the hospital for 8 hours. I went to my sister's performance and sat through the whole thing. And the only reason I went to the hospital was because I passed out and started having seizures, and Levi literally carried me into the ER. So it literally was not even my choice to submit to that pain. We often view submitting to pain as a form of weakness. And it's one thing to be personally uncomfortable, to be personally in pain. We are a lot of times even less comfortable sitting in someone else's pain with them, because that's a really hard thing to do. We, as Christians, have gained a little bit of a reputation for just kind of spouting platitudes when people are going through stuff. People are in intense pain and suffering, and there's I swear some of us, we have this handy little index card with phrases written out that we can just say to people that will somehow magically fix the situation. It doesn't. It makes us feel better. We walk away like, I'm such a good person. That was so helpful. That changed their life. And they're left there like, no, this still hurts. And I feel like you just put a Band-Aid on it and you just walked away. And nothing feels better. So I want to read some of these off. These are some of the most popular sayings that we have. And there is truth in these. I'm not saying that these are not real things, but when someone is really hurting and suffering, these things tend to not be that helpful. So I'm sure we have all heard these before. Some of us might have said them before. That's okay. So, God is in control. All things work together for good. If God closes a door, he opens a window. Let go and let God. God allows everything for a purpose. God works in mysterious ways. It was God's will. Sending thoughts and prayers. I know all of us, we have all heard all of those things at some point or another when someone is going through something. So today I just really want to look at how did Jesus respond to people who were in pain? You know, as he was going through life and in his ministry, what was his response when he came across someone who was really in pain? So I'm going to have Mark 1, 40 through 41. Now a leper came to him, imploring him, kneeling down to him, and saying to him, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Then Jesus, moved with compassion, stretched out his hand and touched him, and said to him, I am willing, be cleansed. I have Matthew 9, 35 through 36. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. And then this is one we all know. I'm reading it out of the New Living Translation just because it's a little different. I like it. This is Psalm 103, 1 through 5. Let all that I am praise the Lord. With my whole heart, I will praise his holy name. Let all that I am praise the Lord. May I never forget the good things he does for me. He forgives all my sins and heals all my diseases. He redeems me from death and crowns me with love and tender mercies. He fills my life with good things. My youth is renewed like the eagles. The Lord gives righteousness and justice to those all who are treated unfairly. He revealed his character to Moses and his deeds to the people of Israel. The Lord is compassionate and merciful, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love. And then a little bit down in verse 13 of that, the Lord is like a father to his children, tender and compassionate to those who fear him. So, on many occasions, Jesus was encountering these people who were in pain and who were suffering, and he was filled with compassion, and he was filled with empathy. I researched for this. I know I only had a few days, but I researched. At no point did I find in the Bible that God came across someone who was suffering and responded, oh, man, that sucks. Okay, be blessed, have a great day, and just move along. That's not how he responded to suffering. So he met people on their level. You know, he sat with them there for a minute. He felt their pain himself, and he was able to have compassion and mercy for them. So when it comes to how should we as followers of Christ be responding to people who are in pain and people who are suffering, I think it's really clear. We're supposed to respond with empathy and compassion, not sympathy. Let's talk about this real quick. Sympathy is pity. Sympathy is saying, I feel bad that you feel bad. Empathy is saying, I feel what you are feeling. I am there with you. I'm going to sit here in it with you. We are going to go through this together. We are in it. So truly, and I understand that sometimes you're with someone who's going through something, and there are no words, which is why we come up with these, catchy little sayings, because there's nothing you can actually say that can make it better when someone's lost a loved one, when someone is sick, when horrible things are happening. There's nothing you can say that's going to make it better, which is why we need to have the ability to just be compassionate and sit with people in that and let them know that they are seen, they are loved, we hear them, they are cared for. I really just think that is our calling as the people of God. So, let's get into acknowledging pain. Let me take a drink real quick because my mouth gets really dry and it sounds gross on the recording. So, acknowledging pain. There is this weird thing that humans do. I don't know if it's been around forever. I'm obviously so old and so mature, and I've been on this earth for so many years. No, I'm 25. I'm just saying, I don't know if this has been around forever. This is just something I have been seeing a lot in the last few years, where if someone is in pain and it's something that we have never personally experienced or we've never seen someone we love experience, we try to downplay it. We try to say, like, it's not really that bad, it can't be that horrible, they're being overdramatic, or even worse, we just try to pretend that that pain, like, doesn't exist at all. And that's just really confusing to me. We see, there are so many people in the world who call themselves, like, recovering Christians because they have been really hurt by churches. They've been really hurt by people within the church. And I have literally heard Christians respond to these people telling these stories. And I understand where the motivation is from, because we're part of the church, we love the church is such a big part of our life, so we want to defend the church. I get that. But they try to, like, dismiss this pain by being like, oh, that person is just, like, they're way too sensitive. Or, like, they obviously don't really know Jesus because they let the sins of man drive them out of the house of God. Like, that's ridiculous. We can't just pretend that people's pain doesn't exist. We have to be there for them and try to understand and try to heal those hurts whenever we can. There are examples of this everywhere. I think the one where people are hurt by church is probably the most relevant to us. But, there are stories of people who have gone through horrible abuse, and for some reason, when they talk about it, people are like, oh, well, I like the person that they're talking about, so I think that's just not real. It obviously wasn't that bad. They're probably just looking for attention. Or, you talk about people who are just born into horrible situations, like just extreme poverty, and they are telling us that they have to scratch and claw their way through this world just to survive, but we say, oh, they just need to try harder. Or we say, well, I have a friend who has a friend who was born in a similar situation, and they're okay now, so it's obviously not that bad if they were able to sort through that. And just tying this back into my own story about last weekend. So when I was in pain, when I was just paralyzed on the couch and just had a miserable few days, Levi had never had that pain before. He had never seen me having that kind of pain before. But at no point did he say, I've never had this, so it's probably not that bad, or it's not real, or, I don't know, are you sure you're not just being, like, overdramatic and looking for attention? Do you feel needy right now? Is that what it is? No! I would never marry a man who responded to my pain like that. That is ridiculous. But this is what we as humans tend to do to each other. When I was in pain, Levi, he was terrified, first of all. Lord help him when we have children, and I'm, like, in real pain. But he sat there with me. He sat there with me in that pain, and he was just there for me. And he was asking me, what does this feel like? What's happening now? What can I do? How can I help? Can I get you food? Can I take you to the hospital? This man literally did not let me get up for anything for 3 days straight unless it was to go to the bathroom. Like, he was just there. He was just in it with me, because that's what family does for each other when someone in your family is hurting, when somebody is in pain. And really, what is the church if not family and community? So in a healthy family, and I say this, I get it. A lot of us did not grow up in healthy families. A lot of us are fighting tooth and nail to create healthy family now. I'm not saying everything's perfect, but I'm saying in a healthy family, when trauma and pain come, it's okay for there to be a mess. When I was a kid, I literally think the only time our house was ever clean was if someone was coming over. It was a house with 3 kids, both parents worked, super busy. It was just chaos all the time. And if we were hanging out, trying to watch our shows, and my mom was running around like a psycho, Like, I mean, I kid you not. One time, she's gonna kill me. One time, we had someone coming to stay with us, and she was literally scrubbing the walls with a magic eraser until her hands cramped out. So I'm just saying, if mom was running around like a crazy person, we knew someone who is not family is about to step into this home. Family is okay with mess. When Levi or I get sick, it takes approximately 2 hours for it to look like a bomb went off in our house. It really does. Because, we're running around, we're taking care of the other person, we're not worried about tissues everywhere, and, the dogs are shredding a stuffed animal, and it's fine, we're just gonna leave it for now. Because when you walk in, you visually see everything is not okay. And that's okay, because it's a home, and it's a family, and we can sit in mess and pain together and be okay with that. Thank you. So, the body of Christ, the church, we are supposed to be a family. And when somebody in our family is in pain, we need to sit with them. We need to hear them. We need to see them. We need to believe them. And we need to take care of them. If someone in your home is sick and is hurting, you don't invite people over and shove that sick person in a back bedroom and act like everything's okay. You don't say, oh yeah, they're just back there. They're just being like really weird. I don't know what's going on. I haven't asked, but it seems like everything's not okay. They're probably just being dramatic. It's fine. We'll just ignore them. And then maybe when they're ready, after we've been ignoring them, maybe then they'll come back out and join the rest of the house and act like everything's fine. That's not what family does. So really, my heart in all of this is that I want the church to just be a little bit better at being family and be a little bit better at being empathetic. Galatians 6:2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. So I really just want us, and I'm not even specifically talking about our church. Can I just say that real quick? This family is amazing. I have felt so loved and so supported here, but I also just mean globally in the world. We just need to be more empathetic and more merciful and more compassionate and try to understand where people are coming from before we just try to shut down their pain and act like it's not happening. So I really just want us to commit to empathy inside and outside of the church, not just within the church, not just with other Christians, with everyone we come into contact with. There are so many people in this world who are crying out because it hurts. They're crying out in pain, and they don't feel seen, heard, loved, believed, cared for by anyone who's not directly in that situation with them. And that's wrong. We need to fix that. We need to be there for those people. We need to this is the hard one. We need to set down egos and preconceived notions when people are telling us that they're in pain. They are saying, I am in pain. This hurts. That's it. Full stop. We just need to believe them, and we just need to be there. We need to acknowledge the humanity in communities that we are not personally tied to, in situations that we are not personally tied to. We need to stop questioning people's agendas when they say they're in pain. Like, that's not an agenda. They're hurting, and they're in pain, and we need to be there, and we need to show up. When we acknowledge the humanity in people who are strangers to us, people who are not part of our community, it allows the humanity in us to come forward too. And when that happens, there's just such a beautiful opportunity for love to happen, for love to be shared. I'm totally guilty of this too. We all like to give ourselves lots of labels. We all have things that if you said, what are a few things about you? I think every single one of us could be like, boom, here's 5 things that I am. It's just easy. Some of those labels we choose. Some of them the world has given us, and we just really love those labels, so we stick to them. But at the end of this life, it's not going to matter what my job was, what my tax bracket was, who I was married to, really. It's going to matter that I'm a child of God. So now, right now, and always, that is the identity I want to be operating out of, that I am a child of God. And when I'm doing that, I'm able to interact with anybody and also see they are a child of God. And our job is just to love each other and just to be there for each other. We doing good? We doing okay? So another big part of just empathy and compassion and mercy, we have got to own up when we screw up. We have to. Like, I just feel like so many of the people who have been hurt by church in the past, it's because things happen and everyone's just like, oh, well, they're not going to come here anymore. They don't want to be family anymore. That's on them, not on us. You know, like, we're humans. We have to be allowed to screw up. Relationships are messy. Loving people is messy. It just is. So we have to be able to say, like, you know what? I did not handle that well, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for causing more pain, and I see that I did, and I hear you, and I acknowledge you, and I want to do what I can to fix this. Of course, we can so easily justify when we screw up, because that's way easier than admitting you were wrong. It is so much easier to be like, well, I was just trying to do this. I was just trying to say this. And that's valid, but when someone's hurting, that's not helpful. We just need to be able to say, I didn't do this right, and I'm a person, and I'm sorry, and I still love you, and I still want to be connected with you. So I really just want us to commit to being a little bit better at doing that, at being empathetic and showing mercy and compassion and trying to understand, really, trying to understand the perspective of people who have just lived totally different lives than us, instead of just trying to write it off and being like, oh, well, they don't understand, they don't love Jesus. That would fix everything if they love Jesus. It'll fix a lot. It doesn't fix everything overnight. We are still people. We are still messy. We still need to be able to process through things safely and in relationship and community. I am committed to trying every day to being more loving, empathetic, merciful, and compassionate. Trying every day to be more like Jesus. Trying every day to love more like Jesus. I feel like our greatest calling is just to love people, and love has to look like something. You can't just say, I love you, and then do nothing. If Levi just said, I love you, and then didn't spend time with me, didn't try to connect with my heart, didn't care about me, wasn't willing to talk about things when I'm upset, wasn't willing to lay on the couch with me for like 5 hours and just hang out with the dogs and watch shows, which is my love language, then it means nothing. It's just words. Love has to have something to back it up. And I think in order for us to really back up what we say we are in this world, we have to love people tangibly, in a real way. We have to acknowledge them and sit with them and say, I'm sorry, this hurts. Tell me how this feels so I can feel it with you and we can get through this together. So, just to reiterate, pain is real and it hurts. Pain shows us where something in our body is not working right. And we have an obligation to do the work and heal our body where wounds have been inflicted. And that's it. That's all I got for us. I'll pray and then we'll be done. Jesus, thank you so much for this time today. Thank you for this message. Thank you for open hearts. And I just ask that all of us would be able to move into this next week, these next months, and we would just be operating on a whole new level of being loving and kind and merciful and compassionate, that we would constantly be reminded when we are faced with hard situations and hard people to love, what you would do in that. That you would be unconditionally loving and you would just be there. And I ask that you would just expand all of our abilities to be empathetic and to sit in pain with people when it is uncomfortable. Make us comfortable with discomfort. And I just ask that throughout this process, we would all see healing taking place in our relationships, in our families, in our communities, that we would just see your hand being placed so heavy where wounds have happened, and that healing would come together, and that there would be no other option but to acknowledge that it's you. It's you moving in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
I know I'm biased, but she's so good. that was amazing. You're welcome for me not preaching. You're welcome, because you got to hear that instead. Guys, thank you so much for showing up. And again, I just want to let you know that next Sunday, July 5th, we will not be having church. So if you show up here, whoops. So enjoy your 4th of July weekend. We love you all.